Welcome to the Aiming Five Hole Podcast, the Selling Leafs edition. Hey Ryan, how you doing?
I am doing okay, Phil. You sound a little bit ragged. I'm wondering,
Well,
are you sick or did the Maple Leafs just make you sick?
a little bit of both. Being completely honest, a little bit of both. How do you come out in Game 7 with such a pathetic effort right from the hop? Other
It
than a
was
10-minute pure stretch in that second period where I thought, okay, they're turning this around. They got a little run over at the beginning, but they've weathered that. Wool has played well. Um, And then they completely come out in the second period and excuse everybody out there and shit the bed.
it was one of the worst performances in a game seven I've ever seen.
So bad.
It
Just can't. The
was
compete level just wasn't there anywhere on the ice. Nothing. They couldn't get the puck out of their zone. They lost every puck battle along the boards. They kept giving away the puck. Like at the beginning of the period, I texted you right away. Like Marner started trying that stupid fancy kick, the puck stuff off the boards, kicking it right to a Panther. Riley gave it away twice in his own zone to start the game. Just
uh
absolutely unacceptable.
it was
Unacceptable
it
from
was
start to
terrible.
finish.
And they made somehow they made Brad Marchand look like he was 25 years old again.
Oh, it's just brutal. Just
He
brutal.
he tore them apart.
Yeah,
He
you know
won
what?
every puck battle he got into.
You got to hand it to the Panthers. They came out like the Panthers do. They're a well prepared team, played solid hockey from start to finish, s- smothered the Leafs at every moment, hit them. There was times where the Leafs were bypassing chances to hit somebody where they could
Yeah.
shake up the team, and it was just bad. I think at the beginning of the game, I even wrote you this in the first period there, that 12-minute stretch where they started playing well was the bottom six was playing well. Unfortunately, all the chances were the bottom six, and if they unfortunately are goal scorers, so they did what they could and
Yeah.
tried to ignite the team, but Matthews had one good shift there in that stretch. I think Nylander had one good stretch, but the rest of the time, I'm not even sure if Tavares played this game.
Yeah, he did because he had that horrible turnover, Phil.
Right, right. That turnover that caused another goal. You can't blame Wool, this series, let's pull it back for a second. This series was lost in game three.
Well, yeah,
And
of
they started out
course.
2-0, they had a 3-1 lead, and then the series flipped.
Yep.
And Panthers looked different from there on out, except for maybe times in game six. But the Leafs just got outclassed from the
Well, how do you
beginning.
get stuffed 12-2 in your last two home games of the
Just
season?
pathetic. I don't like the fans throwing stuff on the ice, jerseys and stuff, and I don't
Mhm.
mind the booing, but you gotta nine for those people out there that don't understand 9 years of this is just enough. And people have lost it. Ticket prices in Toronto are by far the most expensive in the league.
Yep.
And you just can't put forward an effort like that. So there's no more to talk about this game because it was a pathetic effort. So now where do Leafs go? It's time for Pelly to put the big boy pants on and commit to major change. They cannot come back with this group next year in any way, shape, or form.
All
So
right.
what
Well,
is
let's start at the top. I'm going to grill you. This is Shanahan gone.
Shanahan has to go. I'm sorry. Why do you need a president? Give Trey Livin the dual title, whatever you need. You don't need a hockey president.
Okay. So
What
Treliving
Trey
stays.
Living stays. Well, I think he stays. I think he's made moves and he's actually improved the team. He brought in Berube. He's made some significant changes with players that I think should stick around. Tavin, Carlo, OEL. I think, our defensive core, except for Riley, is signed. And Riley's signed, but he should go. But we'll get to that in a second. So let's
Okay.
start
So
we say the
Treliving
start.
stays. Berube stays.
Berube stays. But
I'm staying. I'm starting for the top.
yeah, he's made major changes. The team did play differently, and he can show that he can take a team and do some good stuff with it that should have no business being where they were. So I think he stays. I think Marner, you gotta let him walk. You can't pay a guy who doesn't show up in the playoffs, doesn't show up in game seven, $14 million a year. You just can't do it. I'm sorry. Yes, it's hard to come by 90 plus point scorers in the league, But that doesn't, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can't perform in the playoffs. It just doesn't matter. So hold on, let me go down through the list because I know where you're going to go. So he goes. You have to at this point, and look at, I've been consistent all year long. You can't say I haven't been. I've had the for sale sign on Marner from the beginning of the season and
Hmm.
said it. I was at least heartened that the Leafs tried to move him at the deadline, and they didn't. And I said this throughout the season, and you know I did. We can go back and run tape. I said if they don't get past the second round of the playoffs,
He's got to go.
he's got to go because the fans are now going to blame him. We could have had Ratnan. We could have had Ratnan if he had said yes. I'll take the trade and I'll go to Carolina. By the way, he might be in the second round of the third round of the playoffs in the semifinal now. Who knows? We
Uh,
could be meeting them
okay,
in the
but you
semifinal.
skipped one.
Okay, hold on.
There's
I'm not
no.
finished. I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished yet.
Okay,
Matthews has to stay at this point.
that's where I was
You
going.
can't break down. You can't get rid of the complete part for. So here, let me go with this because I've put a lot of thought into this over the last few days. Right, Marner goes unless you can pull off some miracle. Trey Leaving could do a sign Marner and trade him. I don't think any team's going to be wanting to do that. At least to get some
But
prospect
why would any
trips, or
team
no,
care
no
about
one's
getting
going
an
to do.
eighth year?
Well, but no, exactly. But
They're not going to
he
give up
could
assets to take
sign
an eighth
he could
year of him.
sign more for more money with the Leafs than he can anywhere else. So
Yeah.
maybe he accepts the money and allows them to trade him. And they get some prospects or they get some draft chicks. I doubt it,
Okay.
but he walks. He's gone. So that saves you 12 to 14 million dollars.
But why are you
Riley,
letting Matthews off the hook?
hold
I
on.
want to talk
I'm
about
not letting him
Matthews
off. I'm not
first.
letting him off the hook. But here, let me finish.
Okay.
Um, you have to let Tavares go at this point now. He looked old in this series and ineffective. And for the most part, he was ineffective and old. So I'm sorry, I love the
Okay.
man. I thought when they signed him, I don't know how many years ago now, I said 3, 4 years, they win the cup. Didn't
Yep.
happen. Time to move on. So
Okay.
that's another $12 million you save. We're up to 24 million. You have to trade Riley. He showed that he is not a defenseman that can run a blue line. Offensively, he was terribly in his own end. They even took, he's a $8, $9 million guy that they didn't put on the power play. He's got to go.
Yep.
That's 30 million. The cap room is going up by eight, six, 5 or 6, 8, 7 million possibly this year.
Hmm.
We could have 35 million plus in cap space. Then you can surround. I'm not letting Matthews off the hook, but you can't get all rid of all four of them. You just can't. Maybe you could trade Matthews. Maybe he wants to go and you get a big return in, but you can't build from the complete. You can't burn it down completely. You just can't. I just, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe you surround him with some different players. Maybe he's hurt. I think in the next few days we're going to find out he was dealing with something. He got to be. But I think you make those moves because you're going to have to pay Nyes next year. And a
Yep.
year from now, you're going to have to pay Stolhars. You're probably going to have to pay Wool as well. I think you can rejig on the fly here and make some major moves. When you got 35 plus million to spend, you can sign 4 or 5 guys that of
You can do some
real capability.
things. There's no question. But
Domi's gonna gotta go, probably gonna go in this.
yeah,
Like to see Lawrence come back. I thought Lawrence competed hard. Um, Everybody else they brought in at the deadline has term. Lawton, although he showed up a little bit and he showed some grit. I don't know. I think maybe you got to go off to. I don't know what big fish is up there. Maybe for next week I'll do some more research about who's going to be the restricted free agent to go after. But you've got to spend that $35 million plus wisely. Um,
I agree. But I hope Austin Matthews is injured because if he's not, you guys are stuck with the greatest regular season Hall of Famer ever who does nothing in the playoffs
yep.
as your captain, no less.
One
He showed
goal,
zero leadership. I
zero,
think you'll agree. Zero.
zero, zero, zero.
Like this is a
Um,
guy who's your captain,
yeah,
shows up
zero,
the most half-assed effort I've ever seen tonight.
zero, zero. He started playing
Um,
like 8 minutes into the third period and started hitting people and going, really? Now? So yeah, it was just pathetic from top to bottom. But yeah, those are the things I would start. If you're asking me, go from top to bottom. That's the big moves I would make. I would make to start with, and I just don't think you can get rid of all four of them.
No, I
I don't
guess
think you
not.
can.
And you
You
take
can't.
your
Like, there's just not enough. What do you who you could trade Nylander, you could trade Matthews, you could let the other two walk, but then what are you left with? We're
yeah,
not making the playoffs. You at least gotta at least are rich, obviously, with the ticket prices and stuff and whatnot, but and just the value of the franchise. But you can't burn it down to the studs because the fans won't accept it.
they
They're
won't accept
they're
that.
they're close enough. You got a good, strong defensive core. You've got some good offensive skill. You just gotta find a way to build around it with some grit and someone to drag these guys into a battle, someone to bring them to the compete level that they need to play at because there just wasn't there. Just
Yeah.
wasn't there. And it's
Well, you
sad.
could argue that on the blue line, they've got a big, strong defensive core, but they don't have the guy who can make the calm play and get it out of danger against a hard checking team.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that getting dug in on their own zone was a big problem in the series. I texted you that many times.
Yeah.
Get it out. Get it out. Why are you being fancy? Throw it out. Throw it out high and let it go chase it. And they wouldn't do that. They were throwing up
Yeah.
along the boards and the guys couldn't get it out. And you've got to get it out. So but that's why
But
But
they've
Riley's not the guy. Riley
Riley's
is
not
that
the guy.
guy for Riley is supposed to be that guy, and he's not. And he gave away tonight he threw it at one point, he was behind the net and he threw it up the one boards right to the defenseman in Florida. There was nobody there.
Yeah.
Just
But what will it take for Austin Matthews to find out what it takes to
I
I
don't
mean,
know. But I think
they gave him Ryan O'Reilly a few years ago, figuring that was I mean,
I didn't love that move, to be honest with you.
but
I'll
it
be honest. I didn't.
but that was a leadership move, right? You That's the kind of guy that you
Yeah.
that
And
you
it's
bring
telling
in
that
to teach
Riley didn't want
Matthews
to
to
come back because they tried to re-sign him.
yeah.
And he
Yeah.
actually said, I don't want to be here. I'm going to Nashville. Look what that
Yeah.
costed him. You
But it just shows you, I mean, like you bring a guy like that in because you want to teach your core how to go to war. And
Yes.
these guys don't want to be taught that.
No. I think somebody said it the other day. I don't know if it was you or somebody else texted me this. They're okay with losing. They're okay with losing more than they want to win.
Yeah,
I don't know if you said that or somebody else did, but
it
I think
wasn't
that's
me.
the problem. They're okay with losing more so than they really want to win. And that's a problem. And you're right. They need to bring somebody in that can compete and show them how to win. Who is that person? I don't know. But I think, again, you can't get rid of all four in one
Nope.
foul swoop. Maybe it takes a few years to.
You try
And
to
by the
take do you
way,
try to get Sam
Matthews
Bennett?
and but Matthews and Nylander both have no trade clauses, no
Yeah.
movement clauses, unless they ask to say, look, I'm putting my hand up. If you can get something for me, go ahead. I don't know why they would. Um, but you've got to give them a chance. You gotta make some real change in order to find out if you can bring that out of him,
Yeah.
right? I think you've
But
got
there's
to.
definitely a cultural issue there.
No question, which is why
There's
you got to break the four of them up, which
yeah.
is Marner's got to go. Um, Riley's got to go. You change three of the major pieces being the two of them and Tavares is put out to pasture to some degree, um, and see what happens. And then depends on what you can bring in. See what Trey Levin can do. Bring in. Maybe you go after Sam Bennett because Florida after this year is going to have to be broken up to some degree. They can't continue to keep that team together and pay everybody either. So
Well, yeah, I don't know if they can afford to keep Bennett. I don't think they have much else coming
right,
off the books that
right. But
they
why
can let
would?
go.
Here's the problem. Why is someone that's played them and seen that effort want to go there
Yeah.
and be part of it? Unless you believe in yourself and say, I can drag them out of this. I'm the guy that's going to do this. I'm the guy that can teach them to do this. And maybe Bennett's
I
that
didn't
guy. I don't know.
I didn't think Bennett had that great a series.
No, I don't think so either. Other than taking out Stolhart's,
Yeah.
That
But
was it. So,
yeah, I mean,
but
Brad Marchand again against the Leafs in a game seven. It's just,
I'll be honest with you
it's
though.
torture.
I'll
It's
be honest with you.
torture.
He's a free agent. I hope they don't go get him. He's too old. As good as he is and as great as he is in these moments, I don't think he's the answer either.
Yeah, you needed Brad Marchand 5 years ago.
We needed Marchand this year at the trade deadline,
Yeah,
right? You don't need him at the beginning of next season
yeah,
because during the regular season, he wasn't that good this year, right? Yeah, he
yep.
showed up in the playoffs. The
But
problem
that's what he
is
does.
we need to make the playoffs, right? You
Well,
can,
you'll make the playoffs. There's no way the Leafs are not going to make the playoffs next year.
let's hope so.
Oh gosh, now the
No,
doomsaying is going
no,
off
no,
the
but I
charts.
agree. But I think you need to break this down a little bit and make some major changes. The philosophy has to change. The attitude in the room has to change, and not you can score 90 points a season, but if you can't do anything in the playoffs, you just don't deserve. You don't deserve $14 million. I'm sorry.
No, you don't. And
Someone's going to
I
pay him. Someone's going to pay him the 13, $14 million because they're going to want the 90-point guy and believe if they surround him with somebody else, and maybe so, that he competes in the playoffs. I don't.
I don't think he signs for more than 11, 12 max.
He's getting
He's
12 and a
proven
half
nothing.
now.
I know. I think he's going to have to take a haircut
I
because
don't think so.
he's proven that he doesn't show up when it counts.
We've seen this happen in the league before. They're going to believe somebody's going to believe that they can do something with him. Hey, maybe it's dumbass in Pittsburgh.
That's a good point. It's a good
So,
point.
anyways,
Uh,
it's
let's move
over.
on from
It's
the Leafs.
done. We need to
We've
go
buried
on.
them.
Let's talk about Winnipeg last night.
Yep.
And before we talk about the game, all the condolences in the world to Mark Sheffley and his family and the untimely, unfortunate passing of his dad. And what a
Right before
gutsy
the game.
performance for him to go out there, score the first goal, and play the game. You got to
Yep.
hand it to him.
Unfortunately, he was in the box at the end of it, which
Yep,
is such a. I mean, I know that crushed him. Absolutely
absolutely.
crushed him. But
And an unfortunate bounce down in the neutral in the zone where puck got sort of thrown in behind the net. And
my
what's
boy,
his yeah.
my
No,
boy Tommy Harley.
yeah, Tom Hardy. Well, I'm thinking of the should have
Oh, the
been
tying
Leaf.
goal.
No, the winning goal.
Oh, the winning.
The should have been Leaf past Bruin. That got traded in that big trade. That passed him out to the puck. Passed it to Hartley.
Granlund.
No, it was the next Leaf. So it should have
Oh,
been a Leaf.
Cece. Cody
No, it
Cece.
wasn't the no.
Well, how many Leafs are we talking about
No, he
here?
should have been a Leaf.
You should have
He
been a
was
well,
he
yeah.
ended
Every
up on
coulda,
the
shoulda, woulda. They're out of the
yeah.
playoffs.
Anyways, doesn't matter. But and then unfortunately, I don't remember what Jet defense was, but he was completely screening Holobuck, and he
Yeah.
didn't stop the puck. So it was just unfortunate. Would have loved to seen the Jets win that one and take it to Game 7.
We're down to one
Um,
Canadian team, man.
Go Oilers!
Go
I
Oilers.
is going to be the series of McJesus and Leon Draisaitl against
Miko
Migo
Rantanen.
Rantanen. Who's going to drag their team to the final? Now, there's a clear cut goaltending imbalance in the series. Although you say that, and the Oilers got some great goaltending at the end of that
Yeah.
series. Um, but you got to Ottinger versus whoever the Oilers put in that is a mismatch. The
Yeah.
defense is a bit of a mismatch, but we both wrote off the Oilers in the
We
first
did.
round of this playoffs.
Although I'm going to pretend that never happened because
And you wrote them
we
off against you wrote them off against
that
the
never happened. I
Knights.
picked them to win the Stanley Cup at the beginning of the
Yes,
season.
I know you did. So did I. But
Yeah, and so
we
nothing in between happened.
you wrote them off in the first two rounds of the playoffs. I called them against the Knights. And I'm gonna
Maybe I need to write them off again.
yeah
Like
no
that's
I
what's keeping
can't.
them afloat.
I
Maybe I gotta
you know what? My heart wants to say Oilers. My brain wants to say
Dallas.
Dallas, but I just can't write it. There's something going on there in Edmonton that I think they got a shot, and they're going to be arrested, which is good.
Yeah,
They get an extra
they
day.
definitely have a shot. When you look, if you've got McDavid and Draisaitl on a team together, they've got a shot, right? But man, Dallas is deep.
Oh
They are
yeah,
very deep.
they are. Uh, um, they're deep. They're deep. But
And Pete DeBoer doesn't lose game sevens,
I
apparently.
agree. But it ain't going to go seven then. If Oilers going to win it, they got to win it before game seven.
Yep.
And what the other thing Dallas has to do, which I don't think they're willing to do, is to play their stars 30 minutes a game. Edmonton is willing to do that.
Yeah. Well, for better or
McDavid
for
and
worse, right?
Draisaitl, yeah, we said last year
Yeah.
they played too many games and too many minutes, and they were dead in game seven last year in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
I think this winning that series in five could be a big difference for them. If that series had been pushed to six or seven, I don't think they get past Dallas. They'll have a shot in the next round, even if they had won it. I
Hmm.
think this week rest is so helpful.
It'll be helpful. But here's my question for you though. Does Edmonton, in order for them to win in six, they've got to win two games in Dallas?
Yeah, I don't think I think they've proven it this series. I mean, this playoffs, they don't care about the road.
Hmm,
They're
I
not
guess.
Winnipeg. They're not Winnipeg losing every game.
Yeah,
Winnipeg did not win a road series game in the last how many rounds of playoff rounds have they not won a playoff game in the
it's
road?
true. It's true.
Sorry
So
that I keep
are
talking.
you willing to turn the so let's stick with Winnipeg for a second. Are you willing to turn the page on playoff Hellebuck at this point? Did he redeem himself in the last two games of this series?
I think you got to say that it's he did. But I would say this right now, if you're picking you Team USA, I think Ottinger is playing is the starting goalie in the Olympics and not Hellebuck.
Wow. Wow.
I
So the next time they face in the playoffs, the Jets fans won't be screaming back up at
yeah, I don't think they're gonna
Ottinger
be
in the
able to.
game one.
I don't think they'll be able to. Now it's a long way away from that, but
Yeah.
I think anyway, I think Hellebuck did play better, but he has to do it over a more consistent period of time. Two games. Yeah, he turned it around over those two games, which was great, but
Yeah.
he had the body of work proven, right?
Yeah.
The body of work. It's the body of work. And Ottinger has proven that he can do it under pressure. That save, I don't, you didn't see all the game. Did you see that save he made? He made that game times goal, that diving back across the net. Forget who made the shot on the Winnipeg Jets, but it should have
I
been
missed it.
over. Should have been over there, and he didn't quite clean get all stick on the puck, but he dove across and made a wicked save. I forget on who it was, but it was wild. But
Ugh.
so let's switch back to the East now.
All right, now you got Carolina and Florida. I think this is going to be
Carolina in six.
a track meet.
Track meet. I think if the Canes can play the way they did in the last round, that's stifling. They like to play along the boards. They're not the Leafs. They like
Yeah.
to play along the boards. They can play the speed game. They can dump and chase and go and hit. If they get the goaltend, if Anderson can play the way he did in this past round, and he can give him solid goaltending, and Carolina can muck it up and play that Panther style, drag them out, knock them out, speed hockey, then I think Carolina's got a real shot here.
And six, though.
Six. Calling it
Six against the
six.
defending Stanley Cup champions.
Six.
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 I think you're out of your mind.
I'd like to see it go seven, but I'd like to see it go six.
It's
I
because
think
that's how much you hate the
Oh, I think
Panthers.
I think they're going to do everything the Leafs didn't do. I think every time they get a chance to pound Kachuk and pound Seth Jones and pound Ekblad, they're going to do it. The Leafs let. I was texting you. How many times did I text you?
It hit. Somebody
What's the
hit somebody.
flyby? Why somebody hit somebody? Why are the flybys? So I think Carolina will play that game. I think their speed will be a defining factor. I think that they'll set up a track meet that that Panthers can't play.
Hmm,
They'll beat
interesting.
them at their game and added speed on top.
So you've got Edmonton and Carolina in the
And then
final.
Carolina fine.
Be a pretty good final. That'll
Be
be.
fun.
It won't be boring.
Won't
That's
be
for sure.
boring. Won't be boring. Okay. A lot of people would say Dallas, Carolina. A lot of people say Dallas, Panthers. At this point, as far as I'm concerned, anybody but the freaking Panthers.
Well, I mean, the guy I hate the most on the Panthers hasn't been healthy enough to do anything to make me hate him anymore.
Yeah.
Like he's been invisible, Kachuk.
Kachucky's he didn't have a good series, but
Yeah.
other than some of his
And
stupid dumb after whistle stuff, but whatever.
yeah. But they're a deep team. They're a deep team.
They
I've
are.
it's gonna be
Look at
fun to watch,
we said it at the trade deadline. That Seth Jones trade could have been the savior for them.
especially when Athlad came back. The
Yeah.
two of them are playing really, really well. They're
That's
top four. Forsling, Mikola, Ekblad, and Jones are playing like
and they're
two top
all
pairing.
big boys.
Yeah, they're playing like two
Big,
top pairings
yeah,
instead
all
of
big boys.
a one and a two.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, the only
Um,
thing the difference is in this series is they won't be able to intimidate Carolina the way they
yeah, they
intimidated the
got big
Leafs.
defensemen.
Yeah. They just won't be able to intimidate Carolina the way they did the Leafs. The Leafs were
Yeah,
intimidated. When it comes down to it, when they stopped playing their game and got hemmed in, they were intimidated.
they're intimidated. Okay, so Carolina in six, Edmonton in six. Uh, in your mind, who wins between the two of them in the final?
I'm going with Edmonton still.
You going still with Edmonton?
I
Okay.
got to call Edmonton all the way. As we called Edmonton at
All
the
right.
beginning of the season, as you said. I'm the only one that stuck through them in the second round.
Well, hey, now, but I've got to continue to bail on them in order to I'm a
Offset.
superstitious guy, right? So I got to pick Dallas. I'm going to pick Dallas in six because hopefully that pushes Edmonton
There you go.
through. And then between Carolina and Florida, I feel like I got to go Florida in seven. They've got the pedigree, and then hopefully they'll be exhausted. And after Edmonton proves me wrong once again, I can pick Florida in seven, and Edmonton will crush them in
Yep.
five because
There
they'll
you
be out
go.
of gas.
There you go.
That's what I'm hoping for.
There
But
you go. That's good.
yeah. So I've
So
got one more topic I want to
okay,
raise
okay.
before we sign off today because I'm curious about what your thoughts on this are. Nathan McKinnon and Sidney Crosby playing in the what the hell is going on during the NHL playoffs, otherwise known as the World
Yeah.
Championship, that very few people like. If you're dumbass, are you happy that Crosby's playing in this tournament? If you are Joe Sakic, are you happy that McKinnon is playing in this tournament?
Yeah, I
I mean,
don't
I know Mike Greer is thrilled that Macklin Celebrini's getting this free clinic from two of the greatest players in the game right now.
yeah, I actually think Dumbass
Um,
is the GM of that team.
well, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. So I think so. And I think it was Crosby that convinced McKinnon to do it and Fleury. Right. I think it was him that
Yeah, well,
went to them
Fl-
and said,
I
let's
think
do this
Fleury's just
one
happy
last
to play a
time.
little bit more, one last time,
Yeah.
get a little bit more international
Yeah. Like
hockey
I
in
think
together.
I think it's also a waving rally cry of going, hey, let's go and do this. Let's keep this momentum going. Let's carry it through the Olympics because we're all going to be there in the Olympics, right? This was,
Yep,
to your point, maybe this helps Celebrini make the Olympic team, right? We talked about this. Does he make the Olympic team next year? Does
yep,
Byfield make that Olympic team? I'm disappointed Byfield didn't go. Like
yeah.
he should have gone, right? I'm
By the
sure
way,
he
Nick
was asked.
Suzuki should have gone.
Nick
Nick
Suzuki, well,
Suzuki should have gone.
he should have, but I think he was injured. I think he pointed to an injury, did he not?
Oh yeah, that's true.
So which is fine. But if Byfield was asked, he should have gone
He should have gone,
because
and that's going to cost him in his effort to make the Olympic team. That's
well,
for
that's
sure.
my point. I think this
Yeah,
is this to your point. This was Crosby, McKinnon, bringing Fleury, bringing a few of the other guys, and saying, "Let's go and let's keep the momentum going and keep it going."
yep.
Right.
Okay, so
So,
here's a proposal for you now that I'm thinking about it.
by the way, I'm going to take this a step further.
Okay,
Given that performance tonight and in this series, Marner should not make that Olympic team. I don't care how many goals you score in the regular season. You can't win in important games and you can't play. And by the way, he didn't play that well
in the
in the
Four Nations,
final
he
of the
had the
Four
two big
Nations. He had two
assists.
big assists, but he didn't play that great.
Yeah.
He should not make this team.
Okay, so you are selling your Mitch Marner jersey. Okay, we got that.
But let's call it a spade a spade. I've had that sale for sale sign on since September.
I know.
I've been
I know.
consistent, and I've been
Okay, so
consistent
here's a
saying that
question for you.
Riley isn't the guy on defense.
Okay, here's a question for you then. You have the following on the table. Okay. You have the rights to Matthew Nyes, two firsts, and Easton Cowan for Sidney Crosby, straight up.
Not right
You,
now.
you don't do
Two,
that deal?
2, 3 years ago, I would take it in a heartbeat. Not now. I love Crosby. He had a great year, but
But
I
he's a leader.
don't. Sorry.
So you
Yeah,
don't do
but
that deal.
it's too easy. You know what? I love him, but what do you surround him with then, right? He's just too old. You
Yeah,
just all you're doing is recreating the Pittsburgh Penguins. Crosby,
true. And you've got
Matthews,
and look, you signed Tavares to play that role, and he wasn't
right?
able to do it. He
But
wasn't
but
able to drag them.
let's call a spade a spade. And I loved it. I was all in when they brought in Tavares. I'll admit it. And I said 3 years they win the cup. Didn't happen. But Tavares and Crosby are very different leaders. Crosby
Yep.
was a leader on, off the ice. If you listen to most of the pundits, most of them would say Tavares was very quiet in the change room and tried to
Yeah.
lead by example on the ice. And those first 3, 4 years, he was. He was great. And he's just gotten a little too old, a little too slow. He had a great year this year. Don't get me wrong. I'd love, and I said a few weeks ago, you can get him at 5, maybe you bring him back. Maybe you do still bring Tavares back. You can get him for 4 or 5. I just don't think he's going to sign for that.
Yeah, but if he can't do anything for you in May,
Right.
what difference does it
Right.
make?
Right. So, and I just, and this series, especially in the last 3 games, he looked old and slow. As
Yeah.
much as that hurts me to say, he looks old and slow.
Yeah.
So,
Does I
if
mean,
you're the
depending
GM,
on what happens, can you see
wait,
a world in which Austin Matthews isn't wearing the C next year?
no, I would be a proponent of him losing it, but how do you can't do that to him.
You can't. He'd demand a trade immediately.
Absolutely. So would I.
Yeah.
But I'm a little disappointed they gave it to him this year. I think we talked about that at the beginning of the season too. I
Hmm.
wasn't a proponent of it. I guess I shouldn't say that. I was hand the team over to Matthews now. I probably said that at the beginning of the season. I can't
You did.
deny.
You did. I didn't. I
Um,
wasn't going to call you
you can
because
call
it's been
me
such
out.
a
You can call
tough
me out.
night
It's
for
tough,
you. It's been
tough.
such a tough night, but you definitely were a fan of that
Look,
move.
I've been I've been a believer for so long. Even tonight for me was hard, and I was giving up in the second period. Like I was even
Yep.
waving the white flag. It was
Oh yeah.
bad.
Yeah. You
And
went quiet for a while online. The text chain got quiet for a bit.
oh, it was just hard. It was hard to watch. But
Yeah.
and I was looking forward to a great effort, but it's time, like I said at the beginning of this,
Blow it up.
time for Pelly to put the big boy pants on. And I know Keith. I worked for Keith for a long time. Um, hopefully I'm sure he is. He's that kind of a leader. He's gonna have to do what he's got to do and really make some change. He's got to stand up to what he said when he took the job and said, "I'm here to get a Stanley Cup. I'm here to do whatever everybody needs me to do to make a cup." This wasn't it. This team
Do
isn't it. It's time to make real change.
done.
End it there.
Santa plan is over.
Done. Over. Give it to Trevor Levin. Let him run
All right. Sounds
it.
good. All right.
Sorry.
Well, we better leave it there.
Before I'll cough up
Before
a
you
lung.
before you cough up a lung.
Alrighty.
But I'm sorry that you're probably going to wake up tomorrow feeling sick, probably a little hungover, and the Leafs will still have lost.
No, yeah.
And,
I stopped. I only had a couple beers. I usually do
oh,
one a period. I stopped after the second.
oh my God, I would have been
Um,
up to if I were a Leafs fan tonight, I would have been up to 6 or 7
no,
by the
but
halfway mark.
I'm a superstitious guy. What was winning when we were winning, I was doing my popcorn and a beer period and a
Hmm.
new tradition
Well,
next year. This shirt won't get worn for a little while. It's going in.
that shirt won't get worn.
All good.
All right,
But
Phil. Well, I'd love
semifinals
to
are going to be a
say
lot of fun. Go
yes.
Canes, go Oilers. This will be fun. The next round, I'll
We'll
get
talk to
back
you
on the
next week and see
wagon.
where we are.
Absolutely.
All
Talk
right,
to you
bud.
soon.
Get
Have a
some
good
rest.
night. Okay.
You too.
Bye-bye.